right, so we're back into another Dragon Ball Super card game video. This one, I am not alone yet again. This is probably the third video in a row that it's not just me, and I don't have a camera, which is kind of a throwback now that I realize I'm talking about it. But I'm not alone. I have Mr. Cameron, 3 first name Williamson.
Right? Oh, gee, thanks.
With me to talk about Buyouts. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's hot here in the Northeast, and the humidity's kicking my butt, but we're surviving.
That's good that you're not dead. Well, today we're going to talk about buyouts, and of course, we're going to go through a couple of things and a couple of examples. But if you've seen this, if you've seen listings, if you've seen just in general card pricing in the game right now, it's kind of an issue, but at least something to talk through. And again, we're going to talk through a couple of different points and things like that. But the first thing is what's considered a buyout, right? The first thing I want to shout out is, of course, the Facebook group on the left side. If you want to kind of keep track of what the buyouts are and different people posting, and I'll give you some examples in a little bit. Definitely join that group, and you can kind of keep track of it. But the surefire way to find out what a buyout is and to kind of notice, you know, where do you see it? What is the buyout, what is not? Is most likely the inflated price for one, and of course the market price and the listed medium. Where the market price is about 160 or 180 bucks for the sale Zeno, but the last listing price or the latest listing price is 348, with the listed medium being 630. There's obviously some discrepancy here, and what happens is that the listings for it get bought out at the cheapest prices, in which all the listings below it will be left over, which could be something ridiculous like $630. I don't think SCR ever, other than Victory Strike, has ever been sold at. So there's kind of an issue there, right? But is there anything else we should look out for, Cam?
When coming and looking at buyouts, the biggest things, obviously, when looking at certain cards that could be speculated, are playability, which I believe we'll touch upon later. The set releases, if it was more limited, for example, a lot of cards from Tournament of Power. So like those cards can get easily bought out because there's less in circulation. And then the aspect of just speculation, thinking that, oh, this card is good, let's get it now before it goes up in price. So I have my playset, or if someone wants to, turn a profit.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll definitely talk through that. I think the examples will probably help you guys out understand a little bit more and give you some examples of what's been bought out pretty recently for different reasons. And again, we'll go through those. But to kind of show you, and these are all from the group, in which the G-Cole from the draft box, which you'll kind of see a trend here, draft box, is the one drop that gains revenge after, I think they have to reveal the top card being a battle card, and it is a blocker. Which again, the reason for this is because of the Vegito leader will restand on energy and draw one card, etc. Right? Vegeta, the Strength of Legends is, I believe, because of AOD and as well as a couple other things. Pretty Black Hole. Long story short, Kevin, a local, kind of hyped it up with the Frieza counterplay. 5-drop, you use it, you KO things 5 or less, right? And then Agent Destruction being AOD. So these are really good examples as far as buyouts. But did you have any other examples, Cam?
A few of them obviously still stem from draft box cards, but we'll kind of play a little more recently. Remote Serious Bomb is a card that I honestly think has insane playability. So the card, while it's actually an uncommon, so it's at a lower rarity, but this is a card that could easily have been bought out because, one, limited circulation with it being a draft box card, 2, it having an effect that is very powerful, and 3, it's an easily obtainable foil. This card was actually hyped up because of the Gamers event, and I believe Eddie St. Hilaire, he mentioned it, saying like, look, it's good because this card is actually a direct counter to Sin Shenron. So another thing, playability. It has incredible playability. The next thing is Fu Mission Accomplished. That card actually spiked back up again. It's now sitting at a comfortable $25 as of right now. And then another one of our friends that everyone knows and love is the Draw 2 Ape. That card now has spiked with 2 listings at $160 a card.
Crazy.
Yeah, that card went from has a listed market price of $93 to now a listed median of $166, with the lowest being $159.99. This card obviously being a huge topic of discussion because one, it is getting a reprint, but in a very it's a difficult way to obtain it with the reprint.
I think the summarize of that is that yes, we're gonna have events. Yes, we're gonna have online events and things like that to obtain different of the event packs. But one, we don't really even know what the pull rate for the event packs are, so it could even be worse than what we've seen already. And two, yes, we're gonna have events, but how accessible are they gonna be? And it's gonna be different from every state. And the online events right now, which is a whole different other topic, are kind of hard to access for the comparison of 64 people per event versus almost 300 per event in person. So I don't know. That's a whole different thing. I'm going to go on the tangent if I keep talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned mostly draft box cards, but there are cards in sets too that are going up there, such as Apex, Cell Zeno. Victory Strike has been a product of spikes and a buyout. I think at one point that card was $1,000.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's the first time I think a card in this game has reached $1,000. Believe it or not, it was listed at near $1,000 on TCG, and it was selling on eBay for actually between $800 to $900. It was actually selling in the groups for $800 to $900, like Candy Shop and stuff, because people want to get it graded.
Yeah.
The other thing too is the signed cards, so the SPRs, like the signed Hit, the signed Trunks. Right. Those cards are like the signed Gohan too. Those cards are a lot of collectability.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still most cards in every card game are susceptible to a buyout, just depending on if they were like one of the 3 things that we mentioned prior.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk through that, which is going to be the reasons for the buyout. So the first one is going to be competitive reasons. It's pretty obvious, right? In which if it's a playable card and it's good, people are going to want to buy it. And simply due to supply and demand, just like I was talking about in listings, TCG Player is kind of like the main place, but obviously there's other places like eBay and like Troll and Toll and things like that. But TCG Player is going to be the biggest one. And if a deck has topped or is doing well or whatever, people are going to be buying the cards that go with it, whether it's the engine or the SRs or the promos or whatever. And other people who want to buy it out know that reason. So sometimes it just happens naturally as a deck progresses throughout a format, but other times people kind of realize that and take advantage of it. And then we also have support, in which almost every single time now, if the Bandai reveals something, which now like currently is going to be the anniversary box stuff, which like the Vegito support, it caused the buyout for the Power to Patora SCR and then the Set 2 SCR, which already was kind of getting bought out because people are now realizing that they're most likely not going to be printing Set 2 in the coming future, or whatever is out now is going to be it. And that was the first SCR, so it has a lot of value to it already. And then of course the last one is pure speculation, which is like people see that it's cheap or is low print or think that in the future it's going to have support and they just simply buy it out. And that's kind of what one of the biggest issues are. But before I continue, I know you have some comments on this.
I mean, when we look into it, these 3 are the core reasons. We find ourselves kind of thinking that buyouts happen and they're like, everyone thinks that they're the bane of the TCG's existence when they are more of a normal occurrence than what we like to admit. People are getting nasty over them, and it's unfortunate to see, obviously, but I cannot change everyone's behavior, and frankly that's too much effort. So we have to just understand that it is a natural occurrence. And while it's unfortunate, we need to realize that these three reasons are most likely the reasons that a buyout will happen. And a lot of it is staying vigilant. While this is also a hobby, and I want people to enjoy their hobby as well as, dedicate and the time that they feel that they can dedicate to this game if they feel they want to. Sometimes you miss out. I've missed out on speculations because, I didn't dedicate my time, or I just I misjudged a card, or another big thing too, I didn't have the money. At the end of the day, this is a hobby, and you shouldn't be putting every single penny you own into a card game. Make sure that your basic necessities are done first, such as, rent, groceries, bills, the whole 9 yards. And then if you want to put money into it, go ahead. So don't kick yourself in the butt if you missed getting a card due to a buyout, say if you didn't have money or you had other more important things to do. But I mean, as we said, let's kind of hop into competitive reasons, because I think that this is the biggest one that causes buyouts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. People think that a deck is good, which is pretty fair. Like you want to play the best deck in the game, or the best deck possible at your price range, and it's just gonna happen. I mean, things like this and things happen like this in Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon and other card games. And DBS, of course, is no different, so it makes sense. But that kind of goes into, what can we do, all right? And I'll let you take the first one, Cam.
Sure. So, community perspective, when I touched on it a little bit, is when a buyout happens, it's kind of one of those situations where don't invest so much of your time and thought process into complaining, because most of the time, unless you work directly for the company or work directly for Bandai and you have the power to reprint any card that you want, most likely you're not going to be able to do anything about it. And you want to ask yourself two questions. The first one is, can I do something that can change the situation right now? And most of the time, if that answer is no, don't even go to question two. Question two being, all right, what can I do? Don't waste your time and energy on it, because at the end of the day, it's something that you just can't control, and it happens. While it's unfortunate and it's not, and honestly, it sounds like I'm defending it, which at the end of the day, I've just come to realize that it's not worth my time and energy to really kind of fight buyouts. I just don't want to see people getting into malicious arguments over social media for no reason when things like this happen. To being influencers. Influencers are anywhere between top tier players and all the way down to the content creators such as yourself. If we were to look at some of the cards that influencers have hyped up, Scott Dashy, he did very well with Announcer last regional season, and people were trying to pick up Announcer again. So those cards were spiking up. A lot of the SPRs were spiking up in price, and a lot of the tournament pack cards were spiking up in price. And then we also have, when Markle was on Toa, he was really kind of hyping up the Kid Coup package into Toa. So the SPR went up in price. Then, obviously, you have the Bandai reprint and pull rates. This is kind of like a solution where how do we really combat these buyouts? All right, well, if a card gets too expensive and it's worth a reprint, maybe Bandai will reprint it. We can't control what they do, but we just hope in the end that they listen and honestly reprint some of the cards that need to be reprinted in a way that is more obtainable for the community. Unfortunately, with COVID-19, we have kind of been put at a standstill, meaning that a lot of us cannot get these cards, and these buyouts will affect us more than other times that say we would encounter them. And then pull rates. People can say to make pull rates better, which is definitely a option. And I think you and I were discussing about it. We're discussing that, the base sets, like set like 7, 8, 9, 10, those pull rates are very good. But when you get into supplemental products like the draft boxes and the anniversary boxes, it seems that those pull rates are substandard.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing where the pull rates is where it kind of all starts. And if it's something hard to pull or lower end to pull, obviously that's the Bandai's intention to say, like, this is either a good card or something that you need to collect, or something that is intended to be a low pull rate. There's a fine line in all of this where we all want value for our cards. We don't want to buy a pack. We don't want to buy a card and it to be either worthless or close to worthless in the future. And that was kind of one of the things where I had a problem with this game, in which I really didn't want to buy anything or keep anything because I already knew in the future it's not going to be that great. But because of the competitive nature, which right now due to COVID and due to all of the online events requiring you to have those physical cards, and then now it's harder to get cards because some people are just less likely to buy boxes, and also because of course of the event packs and the TP packs and not having events and things like that. All this stuff is coming all together to kind of build up, which could be natural value because it's just hard to get. Things hard to get, and people setting their prices, all those things coming along with a price that's coming with that. But the issue becomes where it's not very natural and people are buying things out, which is the biggest problem. I do agree with the first couple points in which you can't really do anything about something that is not out of your power. But I do think it should be addressed, and that's the whole point of this video. And us as influencers, whether it be myself or Joey or Eggman or anybody else who has a platform, we do have to be kind of careful of what we think is kind of busted and what people should pick up and things like that. I think we can kind of tread a line of which I can say, usually what my approach is, I can say a card is good, but this is only because I think it's good. Not that you have to go buy it out.
Yeah, and then you get into a situation where unknowingly you may have hyped up a card and now people are blaming you for something that you did not even intend. So it's like, are you really a bad guy, or were you like, hey, I honestly think this card is good? It's kind of one of those things where knowing the power of a platform and what comes with it.
Yeah.
And as of right now, I honestly don't think that like yourself, Eggman, Paladino, a lot of the, you're not really abusing that platform. It's just kind of like, hey, I think this is good. And as well as I do, you're going to have people who follow those words and they're going to want to buy it. And then I know you mentioned that the last one was pure speculation. That's a big thing too. Like, people can speculate and say a card is insanely good. Yeah. I'm guilty of that. And I'll admit that right now. I'm guilty. At Nationals last year, when Demigod was doing well, I was there at the top tables and I was watching this deck completely smash people in very little turns, and I'm like, okay, this deck is very good. And people are like, I think it was like Isaiah Herring, and a lot of the Neil Hilario, a lot of those guys from that team, they're like, these cards are so good. This is such a good engine. So I bought on TCG the foils of the Gravies and Poutines, and I bought a bunch of them. And I'm like, all right, I think this card's going to be really good. I want to see what happens. I bought them at 50 cents a piece, and it turns out to where I was selling them for between $5 to $10 a piece. Now, is that an obscene buyout? Maybe for a foil, uncommon or common, yeah. But that's another thing too. Is if you see something and you catch it, should you really be at fault for staying on top of something? it's kind of like a stock market almost, where some people will say this card's good and then it actually goes down in price and they lose money, or they think it's good and it goes up in price and they make money.
Right.
Because you're going to have that mentality. People, at the end of the day, people want to make money if they're buying and selling cards. You can make a living doing it if you're smart and you know how to play a market, as well as how to know when a card is going to be good.
Yeah, or at the very least, make some side money. And
exactly, like that's how I got myself to a lot of the events last year. Was I wasn't making a lot of money at the time, and I was buying and selling cards, and I was being very on top of the market and what was good, what was bad, and picking them up for cheap and selling them at, when they went up to inflated prices. People can say that I'm a bad person for doing that. People can say that, oh, he's just smart and making money. I saw it as smart and making money. I was able to recognize trends, and I was able to capitalize on it, and obviously make a small side cash, and support myself going to events.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's fine. I mean I think that's fine, just buying and selling just in general, and people want to sell their cards if they have them as well. But that's the thing where if you're buying in mass, like just straight up buying out, and trying to control the market and the listings and things like that on TCG Player, that might be kind of an issue. Where I think people are kind of realizing that. And if you give it time, this is the biggest thing, and which kind of gets into the closing thoughts. If you kind of give it time for buyouts, they will go back to normal generally. But I think Bandai's kind of current approach as far as main sets, just like you were saying, is perfectly fine. I think it kind of has a nice balance between what SRs should be worth and what the pull rates are for that. But currently, what they're doing with the anniversary box and now the event packs, to kind of reprint some of the Dropbox cards, I think that's really good. I personally think they should have like a separate release. I think it's either in Canada or France. One of the foreign, well, Canada's not that foreign, but one of the foreign countries, they reprinted some of the Dropbox stuff in smaller premium packs. So hopefully in the future they can do that for us, and we'll see what happens there. But at the end of the day, like just like you're saying, I wouldn't stress it too much. I think it is kind of an issue. It really, really is annoying when you're trying to build a deck. I think it's not very necessary to buy out things when there's not really a reason to. And hopefully, like I said, it stabilizes in the future after something is bought out. And that's what generally happens anyway. Something can go up to $15 because that's the only listing that is there, but then everybody else kind of comes back and posts more listings to lower it. Over time.
Exactly, and that's the beauty of a market, where if they realize a card is in high demand and it's at a high price, all right, you see that a card's going for $60 because it spiked from 20 to 60. All right, you have two sellers selling at 60. You want your cards to be sold and you want people to buy from you. Okay, that $60 card, you're going to probably sell for maybe 45 or 50. So now you're the lowest price. That then causes the prices to start to go down, because it then becomes a competition of who to buy from. Because at the end of the day, people want to make money. These sellers want to make money. They want to retain customer bases. And that's how they make their business. So it's just like at the end of the day, that's kind of capitalism. You want to make money, you want to make the most money, but you also want to retain your customer base by having the best deals for your customers, because customers don't want to spend as much money as you want them to spend.
Yes.
And
that's something to realize in capitalism. Just because you buy a product doesn't mean you're entitled to like the price or the value for it. You just kind of have to realize that the game can be canceled a week from now and everything can be worthless.
Exactly. It all comes down to,
it's a hobby.
It's a hobby.
We have fun,
and
that's it.
Like, I have to stress this out because, this video is probably going to reach a lot of people, especially on a both competitive and casual base. Let me be very straightforward and say this. At the end of the day, your money should be going towards things in your life that need to be taken care of, such as your mortgage or rent, your food, your water, your car payments, your student loans, your electric, your heat, your water, stuff that are your necessities and your bills. You know, you said this too, and I've said it. This game is a hobby. It's okay if you cannot afford some cards. You don't have to, if you can't play the best deck, see if you can borrow them from a friend. See if you can borrow them from someone. Maybe you can trade if that's something you can do. And if that's not something you can do, you know, find a deck that's not that expensive. I've had to do that when like Gogeta Shenron and Broly Apes and that remember that deck from Nationals, when that deck was very high in popularity and very expensive, I was playing Janemba, which was a deck that was very inexpensive because of it was mostly commons and an engine that was just kind of, you know, there. But I had fun doing it. People are going to obviously bash me because I had fun playing Janemba. I don't care. The anniversary support has made this game much more enjoyable now because it has it. But at the end of the day, this game is supposed to be fun. If you're not having fun, you don't have to play. Don't succumb. Don't put yourself down or don't make yourself miserable because you can't afford cards. If you're not having fun, you know, that's you have the right not to play. Make sure everything else in your life is taken care of before you put money into your hobbies. Because trust me when I say this, I've been on the end of doing that and it's not fun trying to recuperate. I'm at a point now where I'm comfortable and I can put money into my hobby, and it feels a lot better knowing that sometimes I give up buying expensive cards, knowing that everything else in my life is taken care of. I have a roof over my head, and I have food to eat. I have a car to drive. I have a job to go to. You know, just
life lessons with Cam. It sounds like.
Yeah, but
I do agree. I do agree. Don't worry. Like, don't worry. You know,
no, I know you agree. We had this conversation.
I agree, but I will also say that people can do whatever they want with their money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely take care of yourself. But at the end of the day, people do whatever you want. I think. On this in this video, if you had to take away with anything, it's just the fact of just, you know, it's a hobby. Do it in moderation and take care of yourself. You know. Exactly.
And buyouts happen. It's while they're very unfortunate and can be very aggravating, you know, the best solution sometimes is just waiting it out and maybe not buying those cards immediately. Don't fall into the trap of urgency because the cards spiked. They will most likely go down. It's okay.
Yeah. I agree.
And if you realize you have a talent for speculation, good on you. Make your money. If that is how you're going to grind. Yeah. That is a talent that a lot of people, you know, realize that they don't have, and then they're like, oh wait, this card's good, and then they just realize, oh wait, it's now money.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, on that note, let us know what you think in the comments below. Subscribe if you are new. We'll see you in the next one. Say bye, Cam.
Bye, guys. Enjoy the rest of wherever you are, whether it's morning, evening, noon, night, middle of the night. If you're stuck up at 3 a.m. eating flaming hot Cheetos and because you can't fall asleep, enjoy whatever the heck you're doing.
I'm ending the video.
Perfect.
All right.